We are calling the school board meeting for August 1st, 2023 to order. Welcome. Today we will have the invocation services led by Pastor James Brooke from Kissimmee Christian Church. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Dave Sharma, our Chief Facilities Officer. Mission statement will be read by Carrie Avery, Executive Director of the Education Foundation. And interpretation services will be read by or provided by Dr. Janet Long. Now, if you would like to and you are able, please stand for the invocation.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we come to you humbly and beseeching you for guidance, and especially, Lord, as we embark on a new year that consists of a lot of buses on the highway, teachers coming back to school, some starting back for the first time or starting for the first time, students coming back. Many students are arriving in our community for the first time. So there are numerous challenges, and we can't even begin to accomplish the tasks of educating children without divine wisdom. I thank you, Father, for the care and the design that you placed not only in our world and our universe, but in each child. They are fearfully and wonderfully created. They are not here by accident, so I pray, Father, that they will focus on developing what they need to, and that's their character. And I pray, Father, that everything that's done in the classroom and on the school grounds will be done to honor and glorify you. It's in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, I pray this prayer. Amen.
Amen. Okay, Dave, go ahead.
Sorry. We're fine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Good evening, Board. The mission statement of the School District of Osceola County is inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Jeanette Long from the Multicultural Education Department, and I'm here for interpretation services in Spanish. Buenas noches a todos. Soy la doctora Long del Departamento Multicultural y estoy aquí para cualquier persona que necesite servicios de interpretación. Estoy en la esquina.
All right, thank you, team. And now is the time when board members will set the tone for the meeting and embark on positive comments. So I will go ahead and start with our board member from District 2, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to get everyone, just acknowledge all the backpack giveaways, the school supplies. Getting our students off on the right foot is so critically important. I know the Education Foundation helped out a lot, and so I want to thank them, Carrie. Thank you for all your help. And so just really, it's a time to really let people know that school is starting again. And that means the school buses. Please, parents, please have a little bit of patience. Your ride to work isn't the same anymore. You have to make that adjustment. So we just ask that you bear with us. Same thing with all the parents. We have new teachers. The master scheduling is trying to get locked into place. And so we just ask that we continue to stay vigilant on top of things, and at the same time, I've already forwarded like 3 or 4 requests over to the superintendent. He's been really good at responding right away and addressing parent concerns. We also had an administration welcome back. We went to all the new principals and not the new ones, but just all the principals coming back. Hopefully weren't too many new ones. But we just kind of let them know what those expectations are. Since we do have a new superintendent, he wants to be able to set up that culture for success. We're not here to trap anyone. We're here to let them know that this is what is expected, and this is what we want to do to help you get there. Because I think that's the biggest difference. It's a matter of supporting somebody and letting them know that we want to be a team and be able to unify and rally around that. And then the last thing is I do want to acknowledge, the small business and vendor fair. Right now, a lot of folks know that our capital projects in the next 5 years are immense. We're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in new construction. And so we wanted all of our local businesses to know that we're serious about getting them to know what it is that we do. And so we had like 6 construction managers all willing to share their trade secrets. They're for-profit organizations, and they're letting them know what some of their labor concerns were, what are the way to get pre-qualified. And so the school district is doing the best that we can to let everyone know that we are wanting to get their participation. It's not just words. I know Mr. Arguello was one of them to spearhead that initiative, to be able to say that we want our local businesses to participate more, and our veterans and our minority-owned companies, and the fact that we created an office and actually doing outreach and getting them educated about what to do, I think is very important. So again, just get ready for that welcome back, and just looking forward to see what we do the next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. Board Member Arguello?
Yeah, I'd like to, normally I thank everybody on the ground level. Tonight, I'd like to thank Dr. Shanoff and some of his executive team members on bringing forth a compensation package for our teachers, which was very good, that made a lot of people happy. It was a lot of work, and it's fulfilling a promise that we made and commitment that we have made to our teachers. And I think that that's a big win. It was a big step forward in bringing people together, our teachers and the district. I think it gave us back a lot of our credibility. It was great, and that wasn't the only thing. When you look at also in terms of filling these classrooms with people who we need desperately, teachers, educators, in Hernando County, they came up with a plan for their paraprofessionals and converting them into teachers. And then I went into Dr. Shanoff's office and I said, hey, look at this county, they're doing a great thing. And then he described to me what we were doing. And for the first time in a long time, I really felt like what we did had a lot more consideration and thought and was better producing than what they had somewhere else. And I was proud to say that, wow, that's better. That's smarter. That's more nimble. And so thank you, and thank you, Dr. Shanoff. Those are great strides to make so quickly, and it really maybe good to great is something that can be far more realistic now than ever before.
Thank you. Vice Chair Booth?
Yes, I'd like to say last week, 2 weeks ago, the St. Cloud Chamber, I serve on the board here representing the school district. We had our chamber board meeting and had a chance to invite Dr. Shanoff to that meeting, the board, and they were very welcoming, listening to the new school projects happening within the city of St. Cloud limits, asked a lot of great questions, and Dr. Shanoff, thank you for giving your time to that board of our small business owners in the city of St. Cloud. Also yesterday attended the welcome back event. I want to give a shout out to Toho High School. Even though the air wasn't turned on at the beginning, the operations team worked hard to get that going, and resilient we are. And so it was a great inspiring message. Heard from our teacher of the year that came and spoke and set up the tone, I think, great for our administrators to make those plans and goals for the upcoming school year. I want to give a shout out to CFHLA, our Central Florida Hotel Lodging Association. They hosted a CARES drive, and they offered new and gently used career wear for our students for Seminole, Orange, and Osceola counties. Many of those business owners in Central Florida came together to give to our counties so that students can have uniform types of wear for interviews and things to get jobs in the future. And I also wanted to give a quick shout out, yes, to the Education Foundation. You guys have rallied again. Small business, I guess, is the theme for me today. Our business community coming around for those school supply drives. I also want to thank many of the nonprofits, our county, our cities. Everybody's been all hands on deck to make sure that our students are ready for the first day of school. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Kaysen?
I'm going to echo some of the same sentiment. It's hard to believe that summer is over, but it pretty much officially is, as we did welcome new teachers last week during Compass to Success through our professional development team. Over 200 new teachers, whether they're new to the profession or just new to Osceola, so that was a great event to be at. And just kind of see all of that fresh energy in the room getting ready for the first day of school. Again, our administrators were welcomed back in a sense. They don't ever kind of leave when it comes to the job that they do, but kind of just renewing them for a new school year. And then next week, or even this week, we're going to welcome our teachers on Thursday and our students next week. So it's an exciting time of year. I know as a parent myself, I'm ready to get my kids back into the classroom and back on a routine. And I'm sure some of you feel the same. Earlier today, I was actually at an event at Skywater just across the way in Neo City. And it was a poster event showcasing the interns that they hosted throughout the summer. They hosted some of our very own Neo City students, and then some college students from all over, Purdue, some students from Tennessee, different schools, just all focused on that profession in doing engineering and tech and things like that. And it was a really exciting thing to see. And one of the things I learned, and I knew that they were getting paid, but there was a grant opportunity. And so our students had 40 hours a week, so full-time, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, paid opportunity to be there and getting real-world experience. So I thought that was great, and seeing the things that they had to share about the projects they were put on. They were put on real projects that Skywater needed some help with. So that was exciting. If you find Skywater's page on social media, LinkedIn and Facebook, I know that they share a lot about what they did over their time with those interns, so it's something that you might want to look into. And again, I was also impressed with the small business and veteran business fair that we had, and especially with those big companies coming out and sitting on that panel and how willing they are to really embrace the small businesses and the veteran-owned businesses we have in our community and say, yes, we need you here at the table building a better community for our students and for our families. So that was really exciting to see as well.
Thank you, Dr. Shano.
Thank you. I want to echo the sentiments from the positive comments from the board members, and just want to thank everybody for their continued support. I had the opportunity to visit with a group of teachers that were onboarding. They were new to Osceola County, and we run those sessions throughout the summer as kind of an orientation. So we do kind of a nuts and bolts, and then we kind of dig into instructional techniques. So I had the opportunity to surprise a group. I happened to be in the same location, and got a chance to meet some of our new Osceola team members, and they're just as enthused as they could possibly be about embarking on their careers with Osceola County Schools. And then actually in the same building but on a different day, got a chance to walk around and talk with some elementary school teachers that were going through science training. And so that was very exciting too, to get an opportunity to speak to them. And they had some very positive things to say about the year ahead. And that was really great to hear. That level of optimism, you feel like there should be this natural optimism that comes with, a first day of school and the idea of a fresh start. They seem to be even more optimistic and enthused than just that. And so that was very refreshing, and it did a lot to fill my cup that day. So that was enjoyable. I want to compliment our HR team, led by Dr. Allen, and obviously we have Carol Green now, who is here, and Carol just started yesterday, in fact. Dr. Allen has been essentially operating in, 3 roles until Mrs. Henninger came on as the new assistant superintendent for middle schools. And Dr. Allen has worked diligently with the HR team. It definitely is a team effort to reduce the number of instructional vacancies that we have in the county. I would say that, maybe 4 weeks ago, we were looking at each other and saying, how are we possibly going to fill 400 plus vacancies? And here we are down to about 116. We maybe even less than that. When you look at all the surrounding counties, they're dealing with much higher numbers than we are. And I want to give Dr. Allen and his team a lot of credit for that work. I want to give our school teams a lot of credit. Many of them were working and interviewing on the Fridays off over the summer. They were interviewing on those Fridays, just so then they could get their school staffed. And I think that is the level of commitment that I am so excited about. Lastly, there's nothing greater than graduation, and I got a chance to experience 3 summer graduations last week. And it's not about the size of the graduating class, but you can just see how meaningful graduation was to those kids and the families. And I learned something very important about our principals, our high school principals. When those kids came across the stage, they didn't just shake the hands of their principals, they hugged their principals. Because sometimes when you're really struggling to graduate, you really cling to somebody who believes in you. And these principals believe in their kids. And that to me was extremely inspiring to see and watch, because that is something I didn't even get a chance to experience as 5 years as a high school principal. Normally those kids didn't want to hug me. But they wanted to hug their principals here in Osceola, and I think that speaks volumes for our administrators. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to also add some comments. So, first of all, yes, congratulations to the entire team making sure that back to school is successful. So, great job on that. But we didn't mention that we only have 4 bus drivers to fill. Anyone here want to be a bus driver so you can get 100%?
4 drivers?
4 drivers. That's amazing. Again, a testament to the entire team working together. So I just really want to call that out. Never in my 5 years being on the board has it been this staffed. So congratulations to everyone. I'm super excited about how else we can improve. I was also there at the Admin Academy along with my fellow board members yesterday. I was incredibly impressed, Dr. Shanoff, with your keynote presentation, your TED Talk, and how engaged everyone was. The assistant superintendents were there as well, also, talking to folks and, ensuring that everybody was engaged. So I'm very excited about everything that they learned. I also wanted to echo some of my other board members' comments, specifically Mr. Melendez with back to school. This community loves their children. Absolutely. I've had so many opportunities to visit with nonprofit organizations. We have a great one over here coming up soon with the Education Foundation. But I also wanted to call out Embrace Celebration. They've collected thousands of items for the students that are in District 1, specifically for our students at Westside K-8. They will be at Westside K-8 delivering those items to the students as well as for the students on the 182 corridor. I wanted to call out Twice as Good. They're having a back to school event, I think, on tomorrow. Also, Love Makes Me Grow is also having a back to school event at Chestnut Elementary. All of these nonprofit organizations, no one gets paid for this. They just do it because they love our kids and our community. Every time they call, answers. And just this afternoon, I got a message from another organization, Central Florida Indian Community is also donating items for back to school as well. So we'll have to figure out how to give those out. But again, these nonprofit organizations reaching out, ensuring that children are ready for back to school. I'm just so grateful to be part of this community. So I just wanted to call them out. And with that, I will turn it over to our next section, which is presentations. Mr. Arguello, you have the first presentation up.
I do. Thank you. So the first presentation is a resolution that I've discussed here before, and I'll read the resolution. Before I do, let me make the following remarks. A while back, this school district did a terrible thing, and this school board did a terrible thing. They answered questions of their effectiveness, their conflicts of interest, and our district's lack of performance by weaponizing the district and allowing a former vendor who should have never been allowed to represent our district, weaponize our district at great expense, spending tens of thousands of dollars on sham investigations. Each one of those investigations led to a result that seemed already predetermined, and then they came back to this school district, to this school board, and then the school board voted to send 2 letters to the governor of the state of Florida requesting action by the governor of Florida. The investigations were referred to the Commission on Ethics, where they did a months-long, very thorough, very complete investigation, and they found that there was 0 probable cause, and further, they found that every act that was accused of was well within my right as a school board member Things like using a letterhead that had only my name on it to put out information to the public and express my thoughts while I was representing my community. Each and every charge was found to have no probable cause. Therefore, I think it is absolutely appropriate to accept responsibility and move on by doing the appropriate thing and correcting its mistake. And let me mention lastly, before I read the resolution, responsible political leadership is about being responsible after you're elected for the things that you may not have begun and things that you may not end. That while you are elected and while you have raised your hand and sworn an oath to protect your community and to do the right thing, you are responsible for making the decision that a good leader would make on behalf of the community. Therefore, I propose the following resolution. Whereas John Arguello, Osceola County School Board member for District 3, was duly elected and has been on the school board since November 17, 2020, and whereas it is the responsibility of school board members to abide by the constitutions of the United States and Florida, and whereas the statutory duty of school board members is to provide oversight of the school district on behalf of the communities they serve, and whereas the school district of Osceola, based on faulty information, censured Mr. Arguello, wrote 2 letters against school board member Arguello to the governor asking for his consideration and involvement, and whereas all complaints to the Commission on Ethics have either been seen as unfounded to begin with or were investigated thoroughly and completely with no probable cause found, and whereas the Ethics Commission found Mr. Arguello was well within his right to use his own letterhead as a duly elected official to communicate to the community in the manner he did, and now, therefore, be it resolved that the school board of Osceola County rescind the 2 letters written to the governor accusing Mr. Arguello of wrongdoing, adopted by the board of directors of the Osceola County School District, et cetera, et cetera. So I will make the motion myself to approve this resolution and correct this wrong that it did.
Does this item require a vote because it's in here as just information only? It doesn't say it's action item.
Well, it's a resolution. We would have to accept the resolution by motion. No?
Okay, that's fine, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think, yes, absolutely. It should
It should
be an action item.
Thank you.
So will no one second? So even though the school board and the Osceola was found to be incorrect in its assumptions, no one will correct the record, and they will allow the school district to be weaponized for political purposes. That's very interesting. When you guys decide to run for re-election or another office, I think that many of the people in this community will hold you to account for not only not being able to accept accountability for your mistakes, but to fail to do the honorable thing over and over and over again.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Melendez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Arguello, I can acknowledge what the board, has done wasn't of the right outcome. The only issue is a technicality. Rescinding a letter that has already been sent, is where the issue is. Instead, I would refer to a seen a resolution saying, hey, we acknowledge that you are cleared of it and move forward kind of like with that, as opposed to rescinding a letter that was already done. And so, so to speak, the damage was already kind of created. And the ethics committee did its job and cleared you. And so just more like a positive resolution saying, hey, we acknowledge that, nothing was there. Or I'm not exactly sure what this accomplishes because the ethics committee does do that. And so that's only my concern about not seconding it because I can't rescind a letter that was already sent. It's already gone. The train has already left the station, so to speak. And just acknowledging the fact that you are cleared is a good thing that should be good enough for the rest of the board members to move forward with.
Thank you. Mr. Arguello?
Yes, that comment in and of itself is so demonstrable of a failure of leadership of people who are elected who can't do the right thing, even when it's presented to them on a platter. It's not only is it just, it's an act of political cowardice to not accept responsibility and to say, oh, well, on a technicality, I'm not going to do the right thing. It does not absolve you from doing the right thing, nor does it absolve you of the responsibility to the community to right the record which you guys made a negative mark. And here's the thing. I noticed also that there was no investigations, no inquiries, no other documentation, no letter to the governor regarding another school board member's legal issues right now that are far worse than anything I have ever been accused of, right? Far more detrimental. Same thing, a person in the community made a complaint, right? But no action has been taken. No action has been taken regarding that. Nothing's being written to the governor for something quite serious, far more serious, far worse, a far worse display of character, a much larger violation of the community's expectation for behavior of a school board member, but no one's opening their mouths for that. So again, the problem is that you guys fail to do the right thing when the right thing is served to you on a platter. And I think it speaks volumes of your character. And when you guys ask the community to believe in your leadership, they know exactly what they can believe in. Nothing but fake campaign mailers telling lies about your parental rights accreditations and responsibilities and so on and so forth. If you guys were to be honest for a moment, you guys wouldn't be here today. And wow, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. And not only did I already know I was going to lose this vote before I even brought it up, all I wanted to do was provide the community an opportunity to see exactly what a lack of leadership, courage, and conviction you guys have to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I believe that item 202 was removed, correct? Yes?
That's correct.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next presentation, which is a presentation from A Gift for Teaching. Carrie? Avery? Here.
Hello, everyone. For those that are not aware, the Education Foundation is the district's 501c3 nonprofit. So we are here to support and enhance public education here in Osceola County. We are super proud of the 6 amazing programs that we offer to our district to support our students, teachers, and families here in Osceola County. Tonight, we wanted to come out and share with everyone that annually we have our school supply drive where we host through our Gift for Teaching program the annual school supply drive. This year, I want to take a moment to brag, is our 20th year. In the past 20 years, we have provided over $30 million in free school supplies to our teachers, classrooms, and students here in Osceola County. Tonight, I have a few special guests that are here to present the Education Foundation in honor of the annual school supply drive in hopes of inspiring others to donate to our school supply drive. First, I'd like to welcome Erwin and Terry Inwood. They have New Start Thrift Store. Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would definitely like to say something. I'm a teacher in Osceola County. I've been in Osceola County now 29 years teaching. I teach the construction program at Point Siena High School. I make a difference every single day. And I'll be honest with you, I don't let politics get in the way of it either. My main goal is my students. That is the most important thing in my life. So I started this nonprofit about 5 years ago, and the reason why I started it, I originally started with Habitat for Humanity, but I didn't like the way Habitat for Humanity did business. So I decided to start my own nonprofit because I wanted to contribute to the school system, contribute to our families, our students, our teachers, our schools, the county itself. So in the last couple of years, I can safely say I have given away over $100,000 in supplies to the Osceola School District. I've given supplies to teachers, to students. It's a very, very important thing. So I go to my email over the summer and I happen to see a Gift for Teaching. Now, I've dealt with a Gift for Teaching for many years. And I saw the contributions that were coming in for the back-to-school drive. And I said, you got to be kidding me. That's it? So I called up and spoke to Carrie and Kathy, And I said to them, I want to get on board. So they said, well, what would you like to do? I said, well, I see what you've got here. You're asking for $5, $20, different denominations. How about if I give you $1,000? She said, the phone went quiet. She said, $1,000? I said, yeah, I want to contribute. I'll give you $1,000. So I said, I want to do it in front of the school board because I want to encourage more businesses to get out there and do this, help our students, help our community. So today I got on the phone because she called me and she said, how do you want to present it and this and that? And I said, oh, I forgot to tell you something. Me and the wife were discussing something, and just as prices are going up on everything, it makes it harder to get items you need. So we're going to increase that to $2,000. So I'm here tonight to present the check from my nonprofit. We are a thrift store in Osceola County. I'm going to give a little bit of a plug here for us. We sell everything. We have everything from used to new. We have it. But what we do is the money goes back into our community, into our students, into the Osceola School District. That's why I started it, because it was a need. It was a big need. So I want teachers, I want school district employees, come on in and shop. I have them, I see them all summer. I also hire students during the summer, and I hire teachers during the summer that come and work at my store. And they get paid for their services to come to the store. It's just, I'm trying to help the whole community as much as I can. So I told Carrie today, I said, we're going to do this every year. I said, and you're also going to let me know when you have other things going on. We need to help these students. We need to help these families. Inflation is horrible. You can't work today and feed your family. It's incredible how things have gone. So I'm here to help, and that's what I want to do. And I want to encourage more businesses to do the same thing. It doesn't hurt to give away a little bit of money and give it back to the community. What you'll get back in return is 10, 100 times over. And I'll be honest with you, I've worked with Mr. Arguello quite a few years. He's a great board member. He comes to all my competitions. He comes and meets my students. He comes to the shop. Listen, any of you at this board meeting, it doesn't matter what district you are, you can come by and see us at the shop. See these kids, see them working. They actually go and get jobs over the summer while they're still in school. They work over the summer in the construction industry and get paid. Come and see what we're doing. I know we're on a college focus, but what do we do with the students that aren't going to be successful in college? We need more industrial programs. We need more of these programs, these hands-on programs, because there's jobs out there. Take a look around. Everything that's going up around us, they don't have enough workers. They don't have enough people. They're willing to train. It's just a wonderful thing. I don't want to get off on a soapbox because I know you guys want to go home tonight. But I would like to present the check to Carrie and the foundation for $2,000. Thank you so much.
Love the passion.
Stand up there if you don't mind, stand right in front of the school board. We'll get a picture just a second. Next up, I want to invite our chairman, Jeff Mock from Clancy and Thays, to the podium if he would like to say a few words and also share his donation as well.
Well, I didn't intend to speak, but since I'm here, thank you, Carrie, Madam Chair, and board members, and Dr. Shadoff and senior staff. Just it's a lot of years of history for me working in this district. I know many of you all, and for me, it started as a project manager building schools many years ago, and I think I met the foundation probably 15 to 17 years ago, something like that. I began serving with the foundation, chaired the golf event for a long time, honored to serve as the board chair now. I have for the past 4 years, something like that. But beyond that, I'd like to just take my few minutes here to recognize Carrie and the staff of the foundation. A lot of my passion for serving this organization is the incredible work that they do. And if you don't know them well, get to know them, because they have a true heart for helping students in this community. And that's why I do what I do to serve. And it's great that we can share of our financial resources, but what I enjoy and appreciate more than anything is giving it my time and being involved in seeing the impact that we make in students' lives with scholarships, with this back to school drive, with so many things. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and for everything that you all do.
Okay, last but not least, we have one special guest from Osceola Magic. I believe Swish is waiting in the hallway. In case you didn't know, Swish loves education in Osceola County and is super proud to be here tonight to remind everybody to please donate to the Gift for Teaching annual school supply drive.
Jeff, let's put Dr. Shanoff and Swish in the middle.
There we go.
And if the board members don't mind standing so we can see you behind as well, that'd be great.
We all get to be in the picture.
Yeah. There we go. Look at him, yeah. Look at him.
Since you mentioned
Thank you, everyone.
Can you just give a location?
One more thing, I was asked to give the location of my store. We are located in Kissimmee. Our address is 2340 North Orange Blossom Trail. You can't miss us. We're a big blue, light blue building. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. And as we move forward, Dr. Shanoff, you have a couple of appointments.
I have two appointments, Madam Chair. The first administrative appointment tonight is Tim Burdette for Executive Director for Career and Technical Education. So Tim Burdette has held the following positions: Navy ROTC teacher at Denjon Middle School, teacher at Liberty High, Career and Technical Education Program Specialist, and ROTC coordinator for the Osceola County School District, Dean of Students at St. Cloud High, and evening supervisor at Osceola Technical College, assistant principal at Adult Learning Center Osceola and Alternative Programs, and coordinator of Career and Technical Education and Adult Education. I'm exhausted.
Me too.
Better not be. He received his bachelor's degree in general studies with a community economic development concentration from Southern New Hampshire University and a master's degree in educational leadership from the American College of Education. He honorably served in the United States Navy from 1982 to 2002.
So moved.
Second. You are popular. I heard one, Mr. Melendez, and I'm just gonna go with whoever I heard first. Vice Chair Booth as a second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Resounding. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to say, Mr. Burdette, you are the epitome of excellence. You know, I've seen you working at all different areas of this district, and you really care. I even sit on the vocational advisory board at TICO, or OTEC, that's how old I am, TICO.
It was
You know,
Tico then.
Yes, and so you're constantly advocating. You know, Dr. Arnott left on a good note, so I just want to acknowledge Dr. Arnott and everything that he did. He's out there enjoying life now. So, but, you know, you got some big shoes to fill, but I can't think of anybody more honorable to fill those shoes than somebody that has a big picture of all our students at heart and making sure that college isn't the only path, that there is technical schools out there that can make them succeed. So it's an honor to motion for your approval, sir.
Thank you, sir. Do we have to vote, or?
We voted.
Oh, okay.
You're in.
Well, first, I'd like to thank Dr. Shanoff and the board for this opportunity and for having the confidence in me to make the secondary and post-secondary CTE programs for a higher level to continue the great work that we've already been doing. And I had to write this down because I could get emotional. I want to thank Dr. Allen and Dr. Clayton for this opportunity as well. In the interview, I appreciate you giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Dr. Evans, Dr. Reyes, and Michelle Henninger for the continued support and collaboration. Special thanks goes to my amazing family. My parents who raised me to be a kind and respectful person to everyone. I think they're watching today from Tennessee on a mountain, and
truly on the top of a mountain. And I really appreciate them for everything they've done. I would be the person I am today without them. My wife Stacy is an educator in this school district for 26 years, total of about 35 years. She's my rock and always supported me during the 20-year career in the Navy and for my 20 years in education. I am the man I am today because of her love and dedication to our family. She always told me, if you're going to be an educator, there's one thing you got to think about is, if it's not for the kids, get out of education. And I've always lived by that. It's the number one rule that I live by. Every decision that I make is for the students of our county. I also want to thank my amazing son, Hunter, who has always been the person that I'm most proud of. He has a wonderful wife, Kyra. She is here as well. They're both educators at Mill Creek. We're Burdette 1.0, they're Burdette 2.0. I want to thank my aunt and uncle, Daryl and Marcia, who are educators as well. They've always supported me and guided me in my career. And my nephew, Greg, who always keeps me grounded, keeps me humble. I want to thank some of the leaders that I've had. Linda Caswell, who convinced me to be a teacher when I didn't want to be. Robert Studley, who Dr. Studley is here, who's always supported me, and Nate Fancher for both giving me the opportunity to grow as an educator. I want to thank Dr. Belinda Pinkston for bringing me into the CTE department. I know I'm long, sorry. Dr. Fritz for encouraging me to get my degree to become an administrator. I want to thank Karen Combs for giving me the opportunity to be the AP at the Adult Learning Center. I want to thank Dr. Arnott and Dr. Pace for giving me the opportunity to be the coordinator and to grow into this role and to be able to lead this department. I truly want to thank every member of the dedicated, hardworking CTE department. I think most of them are here, and I thank them. They are the people who really make great things happen in our department. I just guide them. I want to thank all the CTE teachers in our district. They are where the real work happens, and I really am thankful to every one of them that come to work every day and work for our students. As the executive director, I promise that our department will ensure that every student, and I mean every student in our district, is given the opportunity in technical and adult education to be successful and to ensure students are provided a high-quality education and a rigorous pathway that leads to success. The last thing I want to say is never give up on a student. I was expelled in the 11th grade. And here I am today. I'm sure many of my educators would be rolling over in their grave. But I truly believe and guide myself by that, because if a CTE teacher hadn't guided me, I wouldn't be here, and I appreciate that. Thank you again, and I guarantee you I'll do a great job for this county.
All in spite of the Navy.
Oh, man.
Dr. Shanoff?
Yes. Got golden here all of a sudden.
Yes, sir, it did.
All right. So I'd like to announce the appointment of Dr. Tammy Deary to be the coordinator of school improvement. Dr. Tammy Deary has held the following positions: district mentor, trainer, and teacher at Dowdell Middle and Benito Middle in Hillsborough County Public Schools, district resource teacher and federal programs for Hillsborough County Public Schools, supervisor in professional development, and supervisor for middle school mathematics for Hillsborough County Schools, coordinator of K-12 mathematics for the Osceola County School District, coordinator for K-12 mathematics for Volusia County Schools. She received her bachelor's degree in science and mathematics education from the University of Central Florida, a master's degree in curriculum and instruction in interdisciplinary studies from National Louis University, and a doctorate degree in leadership for learning and organizational development from National Louis University.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Board Member Arguello and a second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Madam Chair, school board members, Dr. Shanoff, and your entire cabinet team. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve in this role. Supporting the work of school improvement is truly the heart of the work of education.
It focuses truly on student outcomes. My journey to be here today is filled with so many amazing educators that have come alongside me to guide and coach and show me through their example what leadership really is. There's so many that I could never name them all, and I'm sure I would leave someone out. But many of them are sitting in this room tonight. Knowing just who they are has brought me to this point by leading by example and showing me how to be a leader, not just in the areas of support, but in the areas of really making a difference in the lives of students. The other support system in my life is my sweet family. I have 2 grown sons who taught me that being a mom is an extension of being an educator. My oldest lived a life and still does with a disability. He taught me the true lesson that an education is important for all students, and I underline the word all. My youngest reminded me, and I'm starting to smile because he still does this every day, even as a 20-something, that learning has to be experienced. He's the child who went to college for a year and said, "It's not for me. I know, Mom, you love education. I don't." So thankfully, we have programs such as Mr. Burnett will lead, and he is a mechanic in North Carolina and very happy leaving the NASCAR Institute and being hired the day he graduated. Also, I have to give a very big thanks to my husband who is sitting in the room tonight, and as Mr. Burnett said, he's my rock, just like Stacy is to him. He always supports my educational dreams, and I want to say a special thank you to him for supporting me. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to do what educators were designed to do, and that's to impact student learning and outcomes. There's a frame that has sat on my desk for years, and one of the key things it says that is the work is always about the child in the seat, and may we all never forget that. Thank you again, and I look forward to being home.
Dr. Chino?
303 is actually informational, does not require approval, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I will also turn it over to you for your superintendent update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, we've had a lot of discussion this summer. There's been a lot of news that's been made. I think it started with House Bill 379, signed by the governor this summer, that prohibits the use of TikTok on the district network, as well as the use of cell phones during instructional time, unless approved by the teacher. So with that, I wanted to triangulate the new legislation with existing board policy, which can be found in Board Policy 8.63, and then the 2023-2024 Student Code of Conduct, and all of the information that is forward-facing from those 3 pieces related to student cell phone usage. We know that our students are preoccupied very much with what takes place on their phones, and in many cases, teachers are competing daily with the cell phones that our students have in possession. I wanted to dig a little bit deeper and talk to the school leaders that have implemented a cell phone policy on their campus, which has aligned with board policy all along. Poinciana High School had a 300 referral decrease in cell phone infractions. They also saw increases in academics across all areas, including graduation rate, since implementation this past year. At Denjon, there was a 32% decrease in referrals, 33% decrease in fighting, 84% decrease in skipping, and 68% decrease in student defiance. At another middle school, they had to initiate a cell phone policy because there were students that were planning physical attacks via social media, and there would be hundreds of students going to a specific location to witness a fight or a physical attack. Knowing that, based on the experience of our school leaders and my own personal experience as a school administrator in a high school that implemented a cell phone policy, I believe that if we do nothing else but eliminate cell phone usage during the day, we will see an increase in student achievement and a decrease in student disciplinary infractions. When you hired me, you asked me to ensure that we could reduce the amount of discipline that we were seeing. You also asked me to increase achievement. I think that we have enough anecdotal information, we have enough data to show that yes, this does in fact work. For your information, and then also for the public's information, I have attached some additional information regarding our cell phone procedures for the upcoming year. We will be putting forth a forward-facing Q&A that will capture all of the potential questions and answers that have come up, certainly through my experience as a school principal and through the other school principals' experiences. This policy is effective the first day of school. Our principals have been tasked with enforcing this, effective the first day of school. We will have 2 weeks of amnesty and grace so then our students can really get adjusted to the idea that they will not be utilizing their cell phones throughout the day. I have outlined in these procedures several exceptions. The first, and I think it's important for us to publicly share what those exceptions are. The first thing is that to comply with the law, if a teacher believes that a cell phone can serve as an appropriate academic tool, a wireless connected device, as an appropriate academic tool to advance a lesson, teacher has that discretion. What I would ask is that our teachers use the devices that are distributed to our students on a one-to-one basis first, and let's determine whether or not those devices suffice the need. The second would be for medical exceptions. Students with documented medical conditions that require the use of an app. Those students should and will have access to their cell phone whenever they need it as prescribed, and we will ensure that those needs are documented within the focus system, and everybody who would be responsible for enforcing on a school campus would be aware of the exception. The third would be in instances where there are school-wide emergencies. Situations such as lockdowns. We're not specifically talking about drills. We are talking about instances where, yes, we have an emergency on campus that is obviously of the unplanned nature. At that time, school administrators have been instructed that they are not to enforce the cell phone policy. We do not want to get in the way of a student being able to share with a parent that they are okay, or that a parent wants to communicate with their child. It just would not be appropriate to be enforcing that at that time. Without getting into the rest of the procedures, there are opportunities for parents to be able to reach out to their students should they need to throughout the day. But it will not be at the expense of instruction, and it will not be at the expense of everybody else's learning. We want to make sure that our teachers have every opportunity to provide students meaningful lessons that engage kids. And we want to make sure that every student has every opportunity to learn at a high level. Based on my experience and the experience of the principals that have gone through this process, the start of this is a heavy lift. It's very difficult to change a habit, right? However, we unanimously agree that after about 3 weeks, things start to take shape and good habits start to form. Some of the things that we may see as a result is greater communication among students, louder lunches, if you will. Is there anything wrong with students conversating during lunches? Students will have an opportunity to develop relationships with kids that they maybe didn't have the opportunity to develop relationships with before because they just didn't simply follow the same people on social media. That will be a powerful, powerful thing for the culture of our school campuses. I'm looking forward to supporting our principals, our assistant principals, and our teachers and our parents through this process. I'm looking forward to supporting our kids through this process. But at the end of the day, this will create a safer, more engaged environment for everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Shanoff. We have a couple of comments. I will start with mine. What is the strategy for communicating with our families in advance of the school starting next week?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. We will be using Blackboard. We're also going to be using the website, the school-based websites. We are going to push out communication through the principals as well to go ahead and share with their school communities.
Thank you. Board Member Aguayo, you're recognized.
Dr. Shanoff, first of all, let me preface my comments by saying that I support this. I support your judgment. I support what you're trying to do here. But I have been, just between our meeting, in fact, I had a lot of people reach out to me with their concerns, and I want to be able to make sure that their concerns are actually aired. So a couple of issues are, one, parents have a demand for communication with their students, right? And two is transparency. I've had parents actually tell me this is how they know what's going on in the schools in a district that has a bad reputation for transparency, right? So those are concerns that have been mentioned to me. The other is direct control, surrendering direct control of communication with their child to the district, right? And they're hesitant to allow that situation. The biggest reason being security, right, obviously, which I'll talk about when we later on in the agenda. However, I want the community to know, including the people who have reached out to me regarding this, and this is why I support this. For one, parents do text and call students during class. That actually happens. I have been in the classroom. I don't think I'll ever do it again, but I did get, it was middle school, and my students would receive text and calls from their parents as well as other students and so on. So it is absolutely tremendously disruptive to the classroom environment. That kind of level of control over communication with your child, although understandable why you would want it as a parent, in my opinion, is unreasonable and damaging to your student's educational experience. Number two, Students don't surrender. When students do get in trouble, they don't surrender their phone very easily. You know, if you're a parent of a middle school or high schooler, you try to take your student's phone away and you're chasing them around the house trying to get the phone, right? We don't want our teachers to be in a situation where they have 55 minutes, 53 of them are spent chasing phones down in the classroom. What we want them to do is have the freedom to teach in the way that their judgment tells them they can teach best. And lastly, teachers and administrators and the district retain a liability when we do take a phone that is surrendered by a student, and we should not have that response. This is not the place for us to be holding a $1,000 iPhone from a 13-year-old. It's inappropriate. So for all these reasons, having experienced it, right, having chased kids around for their phone, I don't think it's worth it. It's not the best way for our teachers to be spending their time. So I do support the program. I do understand. Continue to, as a parent, continue to call. Let me know your concerns. I'm sure that, and here's what I do ask, that the district remains flexible, right, as the time goes on. One, until you feel that the policy itself is hashed out and effective to the highest degree that it is, right, that it can be. And to be flexible and still be considerate of the parents' concerns, because I know it's a hard thing to surrender control of the communication with your child firsthand.
Thank you. Can I respond to a couple items that Mr. Arcuello mentioned? First of all, it's never appropriate to record somebody without their permission. I believe it's also against the law as a non-counselor. Thank you.
Not on video. Not on video.
You cannot record somebody without their consent if you're having a conversation.
On video?
If the camera's out, then no, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, if the video is out,
So
but
as long
not
as you can see it.
surreptitiously, not
Yeah.
surreptitiously.
I have-
That's what we find with students.
Correct. Now, I have had, Mr. Arcuello, we may have talked to the same person who was interested in listening in on class, which isn't appropriate, okay? And the reason why is because we have students that receive certain accommodations in class, and their rights are protected as well. Here's what I would share with any parent who has concerns about anything that's occurring in any of our classrooms. We have an obligation if there is a concern, to investigate that concern. If that concern is brought forward, all we ask for is a statement to be written, and then we have an obligation to pursue that to its end. And that hasn't changed. And that wouldn't be any different if somebody had a phone out or didn't have a phone out. We would still follow the same process. So I don't need a phone video to be able to take somebody's word, that we would have to follow the process of investigation wherever that leads us. So I believe that this, and I appreciate all the reasons that you mentioned as well, in being in support. At one point, and I recognize that we are in different times, at one point, my parent had to get a hold of me, and they knew that they had to call the school in order to get a hold of me.
And you were grounded?
It was usually for a good reason. But what I would say is that we will be protective of parents' privacy and their ability to speak to their students. If they do not want to divulge the reason for their call, they don't have to. If they want to, they may. And that may be the difference between, this being an emergency or this not being an emergency. But we will have provisions in place for when a parent says this is an emergency, where we can go ahead and get that student to a phone to have a conversation with their parent that nobody else needs to be privy to. And so I want us to be respectful of parents' rights to have conversations with their kids, but not at the expense of the learning of everybody else. And that, I think, is what we're trying to curb. That's all. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, board. Any other comments or questions? Thank you. All right, so team, we're going to have a short recess, a working recess, for the adoption of the millage and budget. So folks who are here or were here to support someone, this would be a great time for you to step out. And if you have any inkling to make a comment, this would be a great time to grab those sheets so that I can have them by the time we make public comments.
Good evening, members of the board. This is the first public hearing on the proposed millage rates and tentative budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Tonight's public hearing on the tentative budget will include remarks regarding the proposed millage and budget. There will be an opportunity for public and board member comment. We'll request that you adopt a resolution setting the proposed total millage levy to support the 2023-24 tentative budget. We'll also request that you adopt resolutions approving the 2023-24 tentative budget as presented and approving the 2023-24 policy regarding the expenditure of any lottery funds. We will request authorization for the superintendent and staff to perform all necessary actions to comply with truth and millage requirements. And lastly, we'll announce the date of the final public hearing to adopt the 23-24 budget. So let's start by talking about TRIM. The Truth in Millage or TRIM legislation was enacted in 1980, and the requirements are detailed under Section 200.065 Florida statutes. The statute dictates the form, size, and placement of the budget ads, as well as the order of business during this public hearing. TRIM requires 2 public hearings for open discussion of the millage rates and the proposed budgets of all taxing authorities. So what is a mill? A mill is a property tax levy of $1 per $1,000 of taxable property value. So you can see that for $100,000 of taxable property value, 1 mill would generate $100 of tax levy. The Florida Education Finance Program, known as the FEFP, is the mechanism by which state and local funds are allocated to Florida school districts. The Florida legislature sets the required local effort, or RLE millage, and the prior period funding adjustment millage rates that must be levied by the school board. The school board must levy the required local effort millage and the prior period funding adjustment millage in order to receive any state funding under the Florida Education Finance Program. So the total proposed millage related to the school funding for the 23-24 school year is 5.504 mils. This millage will generate revenue for the general operating and capital funds. As previously mentioned, the millage rates are determined by the Florida legislature, and this is the maximum millage that the school board is allowed to levy without a specific voter-approved referendum. The district must levy the required local effort and the prior period funding adjustment to receive approximately $376.5 million in state FEFP funding. In addition, we must levy the full basic discretionary millage to receive $24.9 million in compression funding from the state. So this is a comparison to the prior year. The proposed total millage rate related to school funding of 5.504 mils represents a decrease of 0.012 mils when compared to the previous year's rate. So TRIM requires us to compare the proposed millage rate to the rollback rate. So what is the rollback rate? It is the millage rate that would generate the same amount of revenue as the prior year if applied to the current year's adjusted taxable value. Under TRIM, The rollback rate is the basis for determining if tax rates have increased or decreased. So this next slide compares the total, or the proposed millage rates to the rollback rates. The current state law required local effort rollback is 2.8195 mils. The current proposed RLE millage rate for the 23-24 year is 3.256 mils. The proposed rate is 15.48% more than the rollback rate for the RLE. The rollback rate for the total millage is 4.7590 mils. The proposed total millage rate is 5.504 mils. So the proposed total rate is 15.65% greater than the rollback rate. The large percentage change is due to the fact that the tax roll has increased by over 20% compared to the prior year. So a significantly lower rollback rate would be required to generate the same total tax levy as the prior year when applied to the higher tax roll. The 15% differential is a result of the variance between this rollback rate and the RLE as set by the legislature to generate additional local funding for K-12, while more state dollars have now been allocated to family empowerment scholarships. So based on this information, we were required to advertise a notice of tax increase, which we did in the newspaper on Thursday, July 27th.
Madam Chair, I have a specific question on that.
Sure.
Now, the proposed millage, I know it differs from the rollback rate, but is that the FPFP proposed rate in order to participate in FPFP? Or is there a difference between what the state requires us in order to participate?
The required local effort is what's required to be levied to participate in the FEFP. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so, no, is it the rollback rate or the current proposed?
The current proposed.
The current proposed, okay, that's what I was trying to say, because I wanted
Yes.
to know if there was a difference between the participant, because the rollback rate is one thing to generate the same amount of revenue from the year prior. Then the state says, well, we don't care about that. I mean, we care about it, but we create our own formula for us to participate.
Correct. What we're required to levy is the required local effort, so
The
those
RLE.
proposed millage rates.
Right, so the RLE is what we have. So we're not changing from the RLE, we're just changing from the rollback rate.
Correct. The rollback rate is just the calculation to say what rate would generate the same amount of total funding as the prior year. But that's not what we're required to levy. Okay, so the Osceola County tax levy will increase by $78.2 million for school-related taxes in the 23-24 year as compared to the prior year. While the millage rate is decreasing, the tax roll is up over 20%, so that's generating the net increase. So how are property taxes calculated? The taxable value of a homeowner's property equals the assessed value as determined by the Osceola County Property Appraiser's Office, less $25,000 homestead exemption where applicable. The homestead exemption is an amount that is exempt from ad valorem taxes. The amount is established by law for properties used as the owner's primary residence. The portion of property tax related to school funding equals the taxable value divided by 1,000 times the school district millage rate. So in this example, a homeowner with an assessed value of $225,000 with the homestead exemption will pay $1,100.80 of school-related ad valorem property tax to Osceola County. So how will this impact taxpayers in our county? This slide illustrates the changes in school-related property taxes for an Osceola County homeowner over the last several years. In this example, a home valued at $205,000 back in 2019 would have generated roughly $1,123.20 in school-related property tax. If the owner qualified for Save Our Homes by the 22-23 school year, the assessed value of that same home would be $225,602. Based on that valuation, the school-related property tax would be $1,104.10. This is an increase of $33.83 from the 2022 year and a 4-year cumulative decrease of $19.10. So changing focus from taxes to the budget you'll be adopting tonight. Key items in the budget have been shared with you in previous workshops and presentations. The budget that was presented to you on July 11th has been adjusted to now incorporate the second FEFP calculation and the final certification of the tax roll. Other minor changes and adjustments were made to fund balances as we continue to close out the 22-23 fiscal year. Based on current FTE projections, FEFP and local tax revenues for the 23-24 budget are $52.9 million greater than the 22-23 year. Funding per student will increase by $338 or 4.23% over the prior year. So this slide shows our long-range forecast. At the close of the 22-23 school year, we project a small surplus in the general fund, which was the plan. This multi-year forecast shows the board's strategy to build up our reserves while we're receiving the federal ESSER and ARP dollars, and then spend down our fund balance in the general fund in subsequent years to preserve jobs as the federal stabilization funding expires. Careful monitoring of budgetary resources will always remain a top priority to ensure sustainability through any future funding shortfalls. So this is the district's total budget in summary form. The general fund is the main fund from which most operating expenditures are paid. In addition, tonight you'll approve budgets for the debt service fund, which is used to pay for the outstanding bonds of the district, the capital projects fund, which accounts for major construction and renovation projects, the special revenue fund, which consists of food service and federal grants, and the internal service fund, which accounts for the district's health insurance, property casualty, and workers' compensation programs. The total tentative budget is $1,911,490,409. This next slide represents the annual budget at the level of detail that you'll be adopting tonight. This is the same level of detail at which you approve budget amendments throughout the school year. And Chair Castillo, this brings us to public comment. If there's any public comment, and then the floor can be open for board member discussion and comment.
Thank you. I do not have any comments specifically about this. I just want to confirm if the public has comments specifically about the approval of the millage. See none, I will now recognize Board Member Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. Has the budget been updated to include the 5%? Because I know when the first draft was made, I don't think that was finalized yet. So have we updated the impact of how it goes down the line?
No, you're correct. So this version tonight, which was put together over a week ago, does not include that. However, based on our workshop this afternoon, a large majority of that funding will be within our ARP budget, which is included in here. However, when you see this again for the final budget, there will be a shift to free up some of those dollars in the general fund as we use ARP for that purpose.
Because I know that sometimes we look at, in one of the slides, we look at what is the
That
projection.
the long range will look slightly different once we make that change. You're correct.
So if we can modify that for the next presentation.
Yes, that's the plan. We will be doing that for the next presentation.
That's all. Thank you.
And once it's ratified and the board has ratified.
Board Chair, I just want to clarify that it would still need to go through ratification and then final approval by the school board before Mrs. Graber and her team would go about making those adjustments.
Thank you for that clarification. Board, does anybody else have any comments? Okay, so is the next step to vote on this?
Yes, I need to read the resolution into the record.
Absolutely.
So we recommend that the board adopt Resolution 24-001, setting the required local effort, prior period funding adjustment, discretionary operating, and capital outlay millage rates for the 23-24 year as follows. Required local effort at 3.244 mils, prior period funding adjustment 0.012 mils, discretionary operating 0.748 mils, capital outlay 1.5 mils, for a total of 5.504 mils. And the total millage rate to be levied exceeds the rollback rate by 15.65%. So this does require a roll call vote.
Ms. Castillo?
Yes.
Mr. Melendez?
Aye.
Mr. Arguello?
Aye.
Ms. Cahoon?
Aye.
Mrs. Booth?
No.
Next, we recommend that the board adopt Resolution 24-002, adopting the tentative budget in the total amount of $1,911,490,409. And this also requires a roll call vote.
Ms. Castillo?
Yes.
Mr. Melendez?
Aye.
Mr. Arguello?
Aye.
Ms. Cahoon?
Aye.
Mrs. Booth?
No.
Next, we have our lottery policy. While no funding has been provided for the school recognition and discretionary lottery allocations this year within the FEFP, we're still recommending that the board take this opportunity to approve the policy for the expenditure of lottery funds as listed on this slide. And this just requires a regular vote.
Motion approved.
Second. Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you.
And finally, we recommend that the board authorize the superintendent and staff to perform all tasks necessary to ensure compliance with the truth and millage or trim requirements of Chapter 200.065 Florida statutes. And this requires a regular vote.
So moved.
Have a motion by Board Member Arguello, a second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you.
So the final public hearing on the 2023-24 budget will be held on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. here in the School District Administration Center at 817 Billbeck Boulevard, Kissimmee, Florida. And this concludes our first public hearing to adopt the 2023-24 proposed millage rates and tentative budget. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Board, that moves us to the next item on our agenda, which is board modifications. I will start with Board Member Melendez.
I think 1605 and 1701. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Arguello.
8.01, 14.01, 16.01, 16.02, and that's all.
Thank you. Board Member Cahoon.
I don't have any additional.
Thank you. Board Member Booth.
No additional.
Thank you. Dr. Shanoff.
We will be removing 19.01 with the board's approval.
Okay, so we're pulling 1901. So that's your recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
Also, for the record, since we pulled 2.02, that just needs to be stated by.
Sorry, 2.02 is pulled as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted minus items 8.01, 1401, 1601, 1602, 1605, 1701, 1901, and 202.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Vice Chair Booth and a second by Board Member Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll move forward to item 8.01, and that was pulled by Mr. Melendez. I'm sorry, Mr. Arguello, I apologize.
Yeah, so 8.01, personnel agenda. I had a conversation with Dr. Shanoff earlier today about whether or not this list included the people at Celebration who may or may not be under investigation for the acts revolving around the person who was arrested under allegations of misconduct. And so when we came to the agreement, Dr. Shanoff, right, that we would get some kind of update. I think it's fair for the community of Celebration to be made aware of what the status is and what has happened there, and what happened. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we don't necessarily have the best record of transparency at the district. Secondly, again, we discussed this earlier, regarding OXA. I had a, and the reason why this is because I imagine that that person is on here. And so I'm gonna state it. So more than a year ago, I had an interaction with a principal who made an alarming statement to me, in which they were telling me that students who came to this school were of a certain nature, right? The nature being something that was, it's of a certain nature, it doesn't matter. Then recently I became aware of someone who had an interaction with the same principal, who stated that our actual official policy would be in violation of state statute regarding the parental rights statute. So there's a lot of details that need to be discovered and need to go through a discovery process. But I think, considering the history of the district, that the community and the parents need to know exactly what is going on. So out of respect for our new superintendent, I won't go beyond that, except to say that I would expect that there's no rogue person out there violating state statute, going on their own to determine that our policy would be to hide things from parents. And if that is the case, then I would expect that the district take immediate and appropriate action to resolve that, so that not only are we not violating the trust that parents place in us, but also not taking on a liability that does not belong in our hands. And with that, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Okay.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to regular agenda, and we'll start with 14.01. I'll remind you that because this is pulled, we also have to vote on 14.02. So 14.01, Mr. Arguello.
Yeah, again, this is the situation that I mentioned earlier about Hernando County moving their paraprofessionals into an associate teacher role and then increasing that pay to $20. What we did in Osceola County was bring them up to a different rate that was equal to what we would have been paying under other circumstances to other vendors, which actually creeped above that $20 number. And so I'm proud to say that Hernando did not do as good of a job as we did with their paraprofessionals and bringing in people that were on a track to become teachers. So kudos to you, Dr. Shanoff, kudos to you, Sarah, and to whomever else was involved in that. Dr. Allen, I think it was you. Great idea and good job. And with that, I'll motion to approve.
I have a motion by Board Member Arguello, second by Board Member Cahoon, and a comment by Board Member Melendez. Board Member Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess this one's for Dr. Allen then. Are we identifying paraprofessionals that are predisposed to want to become a teacher? Or are we just blanketly asking every paraprofessional, do you have a desire to become a teacher, and kind of putting them on that track? Or either way, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'll defer to Dr. Allen on this, unless I'm speaking out of turn. No, we're seeking out those that are on a trajectory to become teachers, that are very close to finalizing their certification.
Vigilantly, sir, right now.
Because I was thinking too, just as a policy, even if you hire a brand new paraprofessional, even if they got a longer way to go, at some point we still kind of want to replenish that pipeline, because every year people are always resigning for different reasons. People leave, transfer. But and then it's smart to immediately go after the ones that are close. But I just want to make sure that the board kind of gives staff direction that every paraprofessional, every person that's in the building, even though it may be longer track, just kind of let's keep that pipeline flowing, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, and I'll entertain a motion for 14.02 as well.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Cahoon, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
15.01.
Motion approved.
Second.
Have a motion to approve by Board Member Melendez, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Question on that real quick. Is that the OXA renovation? Was the side road, has that been approved yet? I know we were working with the easement and there were some other issues with that. Has that been addressed and that done?
It is not a part of this project, Mr. Melendez, but we are working on it separately with the developer to get it done. We have made progress with South Florida Water Management, so we are moving forward.
Yeah, the reason why I say that, I think they are together, because if we're gonna be designing, at least that's what I read, architectural, we're designing it, how that road comes in may alter
They
the.
are coordinated, yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we don't jump ahead, design something, pay, find out that we gotta do something different than pay to fix what we didn't
Fortunately
design
for
right.
us, the civil engineer on both sides of the project is the same company, so they have both sets of drawings, they're coordinated.
Okay, I just wanna make sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to regular facilities. Board Member Arguello, you pulled 1601.
I'll withdraw motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion to approve by Board Member Arguello, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor? Aye.
You didn't vote on 15.
1501, I think we have a motion
No, we
and a
didn't.
second.
You had a motion and a second.
But we didn't vote.
We didn't vote.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
Did we
Did
not
not
vote? Okay. Board, all those in favor for 1501? Aye. And just to confirm, Board, all those in favor for 1601? Aye. Board Member Arguello, you also pulled 1602.
Yes, this is the AstroTurf. So again, I just want to reiterate that this is a horrendous idea to take money when money is tight. It is absolutely unwise to create a project ahead of all the other things that are very important, right? And not that this is not important, but all the things that were higher on the list of priority, and then run this up and make this happen, all so that somebody can put their name on the top of the field. We don't need that. Not only that, it was never discussed whether AstroTurf is a good idea or not. It was just, hey, here's this money, I want my name, my family name on this, I want to be associated with having done this, and so here it is. And that's not the way we're supposed to use government funds.
Motion approved.
Second. I have a motion by Board Member Melendez, a second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. 1603.
Motion approved.
Second. I have a motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve 1604.
Second. Motion by Vice Chair Booth, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor? Aye. 1605 was pulled by Board Member Melendez. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was a part of an agreement that had been done in the past, but I just want to make sure that I can put on for new business, not for this one, but for the following one, a discussion of the strategy of the impact fee credits. And so I've been having discussion with our attorney, Marcos Marchena. I did speak with the superintendent and staff, but, I'm trying to do the right protocol and not talk about it at this meeting. But I just want to say that, I'm going to approve this one now, but moving forward, we have to relook at our strategy on how we purchase property. So our motion to approve 1605 is submitted, as long as new business allows it for the following agenda to discuss how we deal with the impact fee rates.
Thank you. Second. Have a motion by Board Member Melendez, a second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye. Motion approved 1606.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Board Member Melendez, you pulled item 1701.
Yes, this one, it gives me some serious consternation because as we mentioned during the SRO task force and the board had approved, we didn't want the use of guardians to be as a regular placement at the schools. But here we found a technicality where it's a floater, it's not an assigned person. But the city of Kissimmee kind of sprung it on us during the SRO task force that they were considering, guardians because of lack of manpower, whatever it may be. But then we had discussed to say, hey, why don't you partner with the district to help? Give us some warning ahead of time that you may not have the proper manpower. And so I just think that at this point, we have to move forward because we have to have an agreement in place for the school year. But I would like to sit down with the city of Kissimmee and have a joint workshop on that and kind of discuss what is their view moving forward. Because is this something that the police department is doing on their own? Or is this driven by the city of Kissimmee? Did they have a vote on it? And so I'm not really sure of how transparent that process is being. And I don't mean to point fingers and talk about conspiracy theories. I'm just talking about having an open public forum about the importance of, an SRO in school. And that was something that the board had voted on. And so I don't want this to be a slippery slope. If we don't kind of have a joint meeting now, because the city of St. Cloud has been vehemently supporting SROs. They're ahead of us. They have cameras, they're in sync. St. Cloud is, there's no question. And so far, the sheriff has been a little bit mixed, but has been kind of committed to SROs. It's always been the city of Kissimmee, for some reason, having some issues. And I just think that it's appropriate to have a public discussion with them and have like a joint workshop where they can let us know and we can let them know why it's important to have an SRO on campus versus a guardian. So begrudgingly supporting this because we have to have an agreement, but I just want publicly to know that I'm really opposed to it. I just know that we have to have something in place, and the guardian is a floater, not permanently assigned to that school, but that still violates our own school board policy. So I'm so confused because I want to vote no, but I want to have something in place. But if I do vote no, Madam Chair, I ask for permission for the rest of the board to at least have a joint workshop with the city of Kissimmee and talk about this important topic of securing our students with an SRO.
Thank you. Dr. Shano?
Yeah, so I think it's important for us to recognize a couple things about this particular entry into the interlocal agreement. We have a severe law enforcement shortage right now, that if the city of Kissimmee Police Department was fully staffed with all of their officers, that wouldn't have been part of the agreement. I think that what they're trying to do is fulfill their responsibility and create a backstop in the event that they don't have a road unit or a patrol unit to go ahead and cover. It's important for us to understand that the role of the school resource officer is life safety. The role of a guardian, and there are hundreds, thousands of schools across the state and across the nation that are utilizing guardians. I have always been of the mind that law enforcement is always preferable to a guardian. I agree with Mr. Melendez on that 100%. I think that the city is trying to fulfill their obligation, but given the constraints of the shortage of law enforcement officers across the country, this is essentially the backup to the backup. And the great thing about our law enforcement partners is that they understand that having a backup plan isn't enough. You got to have a backup to the backup plan. And that's why that entry is in there in the agreement. We revisit this agreement when we pay our share to the local law enforcement agencies 3 times a year. We'll be able to pull data on how often this actually occurs and how often use is actually needed. But I do think that at the end of the day, it's not an opportunity to employ a new strategy or to somehow get out of the responsibility of doing the work. I think it really comes down to they want to provide the service, they just don't have enough officers to provide the service and provide the patrol that's necessary to secure the city. And so it's not ideal, but I believe that the intent is to provide the services, the life safety services that they are responsible for providing on our school campuses.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments. I will recognize myself first because I don't have a light, and then Mr. Arguello. I thank you for that commentary, and I do agree that everyone's doing the best they can in these circumstances, for sure. I do agree, though, that we should have a workshop, not necessarily specifically for the concerns that Board Member Melendez has, but because we haven't sat down with these stakeholders since this policy and the law was implemented, which was, 5 years ago? So I think that there's probably lessons learned, strategies that we can talk about, as well as anticipating the implementation of guardians because of the restraints that they have, and kind of learning what exactly do we need to prepare for. So I do agree that we should have a conversation with the rest of the folks on this interlocal agreement, not necessarily for this reason, but just in general, because we have not sat down and had a conversation in years. And with that, I will recognize Board Member Arguello.
Yeah, so Dr. Shanoff, you had mentioned, and we did speak about this earlier, you did mention that this is the backup to the backup plan, but the backup to the backup plan should be having the chief of police at our schools before we send someone who's not a law enforcement officer. I believe it's that serious of an issue. Until they have every single person with a badge at a school or on the street or whatever, then we should not go to civilian people to protect our students. We're already taking away the capacity for parents to be in immediate contact with students to make the education system better. But then, and I know that this is not intentional, there's no conspiracy theory here. They simply don't have enough bodies to do the mandate that they're responsible for. However, because that's the case with the police department, that does not mean that we should decide for ourselves that it's okay for us not to fulfill the mandate either. Even if we do on a technical basis, I think that everyone here is in agreement that it's not the right thing to do, right? It's not the right thing to happen. And so in the end, you resolve the system by not providing the protection for our schools. All it takes is one tragedy to realize that this was a gigantic error, and then everyone is at fault by saying, we know you can't do your job, so it's okay. And then the community has the same reaction with us. Okay, schools, we know that you can't do the job according to state statute, except by technicality, but it's okay because we know there's not enough bodies. But we didn't do that with teachers. We didn't say, you know what, we're giving up because we can't find any teachers. No, we gave them a 5% raise. We were bringing paraprofessionals into this program. We're doing everything in our power to generate the educators in the classrooms. They need to be doing and I'm sure that they are, generating every body that they need to protect our city, but nobody cares about protecting anything else until the schools are protected. Nobody cares about somebody getting a ticket or somebody speeding until we know that our kids are protected. And that has to be the priority. If we have 20 schools and they have 21 cops, then you have 20 cops at the schools and one cop doing whatever else they need to be doing. Now, I can understand that that is a logistical nightmare, that it is a tremendous challenge for them, and I know it's easier said than done. Believe me, Chief, if you're out there listening, I understand the position that I'm saying that you should be in, but at the same time, there's no other resource worth protecting with law enforcement than this. And a guardian just does not, absolutely, positively, no matter how anybody comes and spins it, does not provide the same level of service that a law enforcement does, just in deterrent factor. So we're leaving our students vulnerable when this stuff happens. So if she doesn't have a body, then send a guardian to go do something else, and you come and protect our schools. I just think that this is not the place where you say, we can't do it, and I'm sorry, and then you shrug. I'd rather somebody wait on having a police officer come out to write a report on an accident then there'll be a tragedy in our schools and no one is there to protect our students.
Thank you. We have someone who would like to speak on behalf of the.
Hi, good evening. My name is Austin Blake. I'm the Assistant City Manager for the City of Kissimmee. I just wanted to reiterate Dr. Shanoff's view on this, that it absolutely is a last resort for us, and it's really a way for us to be able to provide services not only in the schools, but to our 84,000 other residents. So we definitely understand your concern, and I'll relay that information back to not only our commission, who looked at this as well, but also the police chief.
If I may?
Mr. Argoya was first, and then I will recognize you, Mr. Melendez.
So the interesting thing here, is this a budgetary issue or is it just plain bodies?
So I think everything's a compromise, right? So you always have, can you get the officers that you need from the academy on the street, because it takes us a year and a half, 2 years to really get them there, but there's also a physical element to it. It's the same with the decisions that you make.
Yeah, for example, right, the city gives, I mean, there's a ton, I think that there's surplus money in the city. The city's not poorly managed, right, to your credit. But this is a lapse, right? This is a lapse in foreplanning of the county and both of our cities, that they have not prepared for the development that we are creating in Osceola County. Now we don't have enough cops, we don't have enough firefighters, we don't have enough schools, there's a million things that we don't have enough. But it's not okay for the city to come here and say, you know what, we made a mistake because we did not plan well enough to make sure that we were gonna have this problem resolved by the time you had students in schools. So now we have students in schools, not that we did a better job than you guys did, okay, because I don't believe that's the case. But we have students in schools and they need a law enforcement officer. There's no equivalent, there's no substitution. You know, you can't give someone who's dying of thirst sand to drink because it moves down their throat. They need to be protected first and foremost. And hey, deputize the mayor and have her come down. It's that serious for me, right? Because God forbid, this is the site of a tragedy, and we made a whole bunch of excuses on why we let people build 5 million houses in 20 years without having sufficient cops or firemen or roads, right, to use in order to protect the citizens of this county.
Sure. Understood.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez, was
Yeah.
this for him?
Yes, and I guess it's kind of dual for the board as well, because, you know, I want to be a collective, I can't just tell them directly. Because one thing that came out of the SRO task force, because when Chief Odell had mentioned the possibility of the use of guardians, we were like, wait a second, we don't want to do that. Can you communicate with us what help the city needs, and possibly we could help? So if you guys foresaw the fact that there were going to be some vacancies in your positions, if you look at your map, you know, I would like to help. Now, I'm only one board member, like I said, we do public campaigns all the time, on Facebook, whatever. Hey, we're looking for teachers and looking to a bonus. You know, I'm pretty sure that if the city formally requests some help from the school district, we can use our own publicity channels too. Hey, cops, join us. You know, kind of like the old Uncle Sam posters, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, when it's wartime, everybody becomes, you know, involved with the war effort. You know, somebody's doing something to contribute. And if you're really that short, you know, let us help you. You know what I mean? So I don't want to create like an adversarial relationship. I just want an honest conversation. If you planned ahead of time and you knew that you were going to be short, just let us know. And then the board can have our own decision of how much we want to allocate towards helping promote and fill that vacancy, so we wouldn't need that. Because we depend on you guys, you know, and we don't just want to say, okay, point the finger. You know, I want to be an ally with you guys and help you, you know, fulfill those positions.
Sure, and I do just want to clarify from a staffing standpoint, like we have very low number of vacancies within our police department and our fire department. What this is though is every time there is a vacancy in a school from an SRO standpoint, we are having to pull other units to cover that. And so it's a little more complicated because it's not just one. So when you add a spare, you have to have additional ones to let them have days off. And so it kind of is compounding, but for us, it's if we really wanted to do it, we would need to provide additional positions. And for us, we know that there's a cost associated with providing those services. So when you're looking at north of $120,000 for the first year to put a brand new cop on the street, plus the ongoing recurring cost, that adds up for intermittent outages or sometimes someone's off.
Yeah, totally understand the talent management piece of it, but what I think I hear the board saying, and I would love to hear from the rest of the board as well, if you'd like to speak, is we know and we want to help to workshop this issue because we want to protect our students. So I think what I'm hearing is we just want to have a conversation, and just like we've all thought out of the box, not just in the school district, but also in other municipalities in these tough times, we can probably just in good faith have a conversation about how we can solve this issue. Because I think we get what the issue is, totally get it. But if there's anything we can do, maybe we haven't thought of everything, right? Just having that good faith conversation. I'll bring the coffee and pastelitos, if that will bribe anybody.
Okay, no worries. We'll absolutely take back the sentiment of the board to not only the police chief, but also to our commission as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Arguello has a comment.
Yeah, I heard what you just said, right? And there are budgetary restraints. It's not like you have a lot of open positions or vacancies, right? That's exactly goes back to what I was saying earlier. You know, I'll help too. I'll come down, I'll volunteer my time to go through your line item budget and find you the money so that you can hire the extra cops that you guys should already have on board to protect our schools. I just, you know, it's not a place where people should be saying, it's a money thing, because here's the thing, I see you guys doing like parades and I see you guys doing a whole bunch of different things that are not nearly as serious or nor would cause the outburst, okay, of why did this happen, besides a tragedy at one of our schools. So people can have a good time. I know everybody wants to be popular and people want to do book back drives and all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the day, your guys' job as a city and your commissioner's job as commissioners is to protect the city, and that requires by Florida statute for you guys to protect our schools, right? And our relationship that we have. So I know that it's also a relationship. I know I'm going way above board in terms of, I know that you guys could just say no, right? And create your own police department or whatever. But here's the thing, I think that everybody has witnessed that the city is not broke, right? And if it is broke, again, all those issues have to be resolved until we have a law enforcement officer at every one of our schools. It's easy to say, oh, we're gonna work nicely with you guys and so on or whatever, but it's a whole other thing. If you have a vote, then this would be the time to vote with your vote and make sure that you're voting, because it's one thing to put something on a postcard and mail it to people voting for State House. It's a whole other thing to use your vote to ensure that we have LEOs at our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Flake.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So board, I do believe that we had a motion and a second, is that correct?
I don't have one.
Okay, Mr. Melendez, but you did make a motion, right?
No, I did not.
Oh, I am making up stories.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Board Member Cahoon, reminding us that school does start next week. I will second that. Board, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Okay.
Dr. Shanoff, it looks like you got a limited amount of time.
Like a week, basically, we just took out, okay, all right.
This agreement is set to execute tomorrow. We would have to start all over again.
I have discussion, or is it too late for that? I mean,
We
we
voted.
already voted.
You can always motion again.
You can motion to reopen.
Okay, I'm gonna reopen.
Yes.
Who can do it? Because she and I were the ones who said yes. So who can actually rescind their vote or whatever?
I would have one of the
Okay.
ones who voted no choose to reopen.
I motion to reopen discussion.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor to reopen discussion?
Aye.
Thank you. Board, Vice Chair Booth? you
Aye
have the
for nay.
floor. Okay, nay for, Board Member Arguello. Vice Chair Booth, you have the floor.
I defer to Dr. Shanoff and then to our attorney, please. Dr. Shanoff, please explain the effects of this vote to our schools opening starting in 2 weeks.
I can't guarantee that there are going to be, I can't guarantee without an approval of this agreement tonight that we will have an agreement in place in time for the first day of school. We won't, because we're not reconvening.
Meaning we wouldn't have school resource officers at our campuses.
That is
on the
correct.
first day of school.
So the issue that we're trying to avoid will be a thing. Okay. Do you have any other comments?
I do.
Vice Chair?
And by law, with our Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, how does that, for our schools and the public to be aware, if we do not have that covered by state
That's
statute?
exactly what Dr. Shanoff has said. You don't have an agreement in place. You don't have those orders.
Or can we vote to support the agreement, but strike the specific line item allowing the one guardian as a floater, but then agree to the rest of the?
Well, I mean, he's right. Press the button, and he's actually ahead of you. Thank you for being patient. Before I recognize you, Vice Chair, did you have any other comments?
I'm getting the information from everybody. So Dr. Shanoff, again, and any other comments I'd like to hear as well, but we have to get our schools with SROs in front of them. We have to have that for school open.
My concern is that we are voting down an interlocal agreement for which you have two law enforcement agencies that have nothing to do with your concern relative to a guardian who is a backup to a backup. And we will not have security for those schools in addition. So a no vote is a no vote to the interlocal agreement between the sheriff's office, the city of St. Cloud, the city of Kissimmee. So if we do not have an agreement in place tonight, no, I cannot guarantee that we will have coverage the first day of school.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a, I understand. I need to recognize the motions. Thank you. I have a motion by Vice Chair Booth, a second by Board Member Cahoon with discussion. I will recognize Mr. Arguello first.
Can we call an emergency meeting of the school board? So we can, right now, here's the thing. It's not like we're on the flat earth, and then if we take one step, we fall off the edge. We can reject this, right, and go back to the drawing board. The school, the chief of police, I guarantee you, knows when school starts. So does the sheriff, so does the chief of police of St. Cloud. Obviously, we know when school starts here. We could go back and strike that issue, and they understand, Mr. Blake, right? You're not taking a vacation beginning tonight and not coming back until after school starts? I'll take that, yeah. So it may put us in a difficult situation, but otherwise would be to accept a situation. Now, what's gonna happen is that, just like, and we all know this in life, somebody's gonna be like, oop, I'm sick. It gets easier and easier and easier to put in a guardian in our schools. Now, something that you guys are also taking into consideration, by allowing this, we are allowing another entity to break school board policy, and we're approving that contractually. So we're allowing a school board policy to be broken via contract for this, another entity, right? So what's the point of our school board policies if we're allowing a contract to break our school board policy? This should have been hammered out a long time ago. A year ago, they should have been resolving these issues. So it's kind of a tough situation. Go back to the drawing board. School starts here pretty quickly. We had all this time because this already came before the board, right? And no explanation came at any point in time saying, hey, we need to figure out a different way. This is the same exact contract that came last time. And so all it took was the chief of police to say, listen, sorry, that's what it is. I cannot put a cop in that school. Well, okay, so the same exact thing came back. You got the same result. We should not be unprepared for this. So if that means that people got to work a little bit harder, a little bit faster to make it happen before school starts, then that's totally reasonable in my mind.
Thank you. Board Member Melendez, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I appreciate why the vice chair made the new motion. I would just seek that she can modify that motion to specifically say, no, we agree to the SR contract minus that one guardian floater, and only have that guardian floater at bay. So everything else is covered, and we have schools, cut with SROs at every school, because technically it's a floater. It's not the one that's assigned. So that way you can still follow through with your conviction as you were in your initial vote, and not be at odds with the contract at all. So kind of to Dr. Shinoff's point, we have two other entities that were playing ball nicely. So I would say, but I can't make the motion because I wasn't the maker of the motion, is my point was to let's approve this, striking out the Guardian floater. Then put that pressure on the city of Kissimmee, like as Mr. Arroyo said, to come back to us later and figure out how to work that part out. But that's just a floater. So we can approve the rest of this as submitted and hold them, pay everybody as their SRO. And so I don't think it has to be this all or nothing type deal if we just say strike the floater and approve everything else as submitted. Just like we do with the agenda at the beginning of the day. We say, do we want to modify an agenda? Yeah. We vote for the rest of the agenda, and we just pull out the one items that we disagree with. So if the Guardian floater is the point of contention, let's approve the rest of this SRO contract as submitted and get going and make the payments faithfully, and then have a discussion with the city of Kissimmee on what to do with the Guardian floater.
Thank you. I will recognize the attorney. You have a comment?
Sure. My comment would be that the contract is as drafted, and certainly the board can do what you're saying, but you're essentially rejecting the contract, which then does not need to be approved and signed by the other entities, which is something.
But they could.
They could, absolutely. But I just want the board aware, it's not like you presented to them with that.
It's not a
clause.
unilateral change.
No, you cannot make a unilateral change and require them to sign it and move forward with it and accept your payments.
Thank you.
So it's a counter.
I will recognize myself, since I do not have a light. I keep saying that. I don't want anybody to think I'm cutting them off. Mr. Argoya, I know that you have your light on. Understood, we all possibly have some concerns with having a Guardian floater. By the way, not a Guardian floater in this contract. This is why I think it's a great idea for us to come to the table and have a good faith discussion with the other entities. But I will not strike down any part of this contract as it is, because the floater is probably going to be covering that sick person or that person who goes on vacation. And I'm not gonna take that chance with the lives of our children. So for me, the contract should go as it is. And yes, we have to come to the table and have a conversation about how we're going to manage this. This is a growth situation, right? A good faith conversation, but to play with this contract, with the lives of our children, which is exactly what everybody else is saying that we are concerned about, a week before school starts, I am not in favor of that. So, Mr. Arguello, you're recognized, and I think that we need to take a vote on this.
No, I don't think that this is the right place or time for melodramatic.
Mr. Arguello, I'm going to stop you now.
I'm speaking. You can't
You're
do that.
not. I'm going to ask
Natalie,
you
what?
to stop
This is not a-
making
I'm sorry,
personal
I'm gonna
attacks
finish.
about myself or any other board member. We had this conversation before. I will say it again publicly. Melodrama, anything that has to do with a board member, I think you need to, as part of your professionalism commitment, stop it right now.
I
No
think
one
that you
else
need to
does it
maintain
here,
your
and
composure
you
here.
need to stop.
This is telling the people.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm not
Please
done.
continue
This is-
without personal attacks.
I think that you need to relax.
Please continue without
So
personal
here's-
attacks.
Listen, to tell the people, the community of Osceola County, that we're in a dichotomy of choices between we're putting all of your children at risk. If we don't sign this contract, all of your children are at risk. Our kids have not started school. What it says, and you should be clear and transparent, okay, is that if we say no, then everyone is forced to come back and resolve this. Is there anybody in Osceola County who believes that the chief of police is gonna refuse to meet with our superintendent to come to a resolution on this? Absolutely not. She is a professional. She's gonna come, she's gonna do what she needs to do. So is everyone else. Nobody's exposing anyone to any danger except by creating a contract that does two things: violate school board policy and create a situation where we will have a non-SRO at our schools at some point. And that problem, if we accept it, because we're already going to be breaking school board rule, that means that if we take this contract to break our own school board rule, no one else, right, can be expected to follow. So then the sheriff will come and the sheriff will say, I don't have a deputy, sorry, what I'm going to do is send a guardian. And then the other person, the other chief of police is going to say, I don't have police, so I'm going to have to send a guardian. And then it grows and grows and grows until the only thing we have in our schools is guardians. This is the right time and the right place, without theatrics, to say we are going to have law enforcement at all of our schools. Please make do. Mr. Blake, please come through for us. right? We know that you're not going to leave any of our schools unprotected, but we want unless we come back in 2 weeks and we say, you know what, it's no longer school board policy to have law enforcement officers at our schools, number one, and then number two, that we're going to accept a guardian where there is supposed to be a law enforcement officer. So just get your story straight without the theater, without telling these people that anybody's in danger. That's not what we're doing. What we're saying is work harder to come to the right conclusion for our community. That's what we're doing.
I have a motion and a second. Board, all those in favor of this contract? Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Thank you. We're moving forward to public comments. I will recognize Karen Baker.
Karen Baker, 2484 Yellow Brick Road, St. Cloud. So our children do not belong to the government, nor the school districts. The grooming of our children has to stop. The pornography books must be kept out of our schools. If any of this was found on a person's computer, they would be arrested and put in jail. If a parent wants their children to read or see these type of books, they can buy them at the bookstore for their home, but they are not appropriate to be in our schools, no matter the grade. These books are immoral. Leave the children alone and stop trying to groom them and tell children that they need to change their gender, which is an absolute impossibility. God created male and female and nothing else. We are fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and God does not make mistakes. A male has XY chromosomes and a female has XX chromosomes, and no amount of surgery, drugs, and body mutilation will ever change their biological sex. A person's sex or gender is determined at the moment of conception. Any teacher or anyone trying to convince a child that they are in the wrong body should not be teaching anywhere. And to hide any of this from a parent is a total violation of the parent-child relationship. That is what sex abusers tell a child. Don't tell your parents. This is a secret between us. Let children be children and stop stealing their innocence. As educators, your job is to teach children how to read, write, and do math and science, not indoctrinate them into sexual deviancy. There is nothing more than about population control, because the sexual reproduction organs are removed, then these children will not be able to have children when they become adults. How would any of you feel if you found out that your child's schools or teachers were telling them that they should change their gender but not tell you? You would be furious, I should hope. Listen to and read about the young people and others who went through a sex change and now are detransitioning because they have learned that this was not their problem at all. Most children outgrow this dysphoria if they are just allowed to go through normal puberty and get good counseling if needed. Big Pharma is making people who take these sex hormones lifelong patients dependent on drugs because their bodies are so messed up. America leads the world as a consumer of child sex trafficking. This is nothing to be proud of. Thousands upon thousands of children are missing and have been sold into sex trafficking. A bag of cocaine can only be sold once, but a child can be sold 5 to 10 times a day. It is time to stop the grooming of children in schools and everywhere. So please keep these books out of the schools, let children be children, and let them develop normally. To quote from the movie Sound of Freedom, God's children are not for sale.
Thank you. We'll recognize Mr. Luis Rivera.
Luis Rivera, 3078 Point Place in Kissimmee, Florida. Did you ask my son to get in your car? The unknown male did not respond and quickly left the restaurant. The same unknown male approached her and told her she was looking lonely and asked if he could sit with her. She said no. A short time later, the unknown male approached her again. The restaurant manager advised by an employee of a male in a dining room asking young girls to sit with them. This is part of a police report of an incident in front of one of our schools where hundreds of students are picked up by parents. By the way, this sick individual is a sex offender. While on bond for touching another underage child, he was in front of our schools scouting our kids, and you did not care to investigate. I've shared this at countless meetings. Last year around this time, 3 teachers told me they witnessed kids playing with guns, toy guns, in the parking lot and admitted They did not know what to do. They did nothing. I also shared this at school board meetings. Student A said he made a comment, but he was only joking about shooting him in the face. Student B said he would kill the student and further made a comment about a gun. I pray that these images move you in a direction that will produce transparency. 180 student days, 60 schools, 150 phone calls to one school, one alert to parents, with calls of 911, trespass, child abuse, harassment, and battery, to name a few. Correct me if I'm wrong. At board meetings, there's something important where the chairperson will instruct the superintendent. What I would like for you to do is your job. Words like toy guns, kidnapping, transportation, SROs, don't ignore them. Here's my advice. Write it down, get back to the individual, and share the results with everyone. You guys don't even share the results within yourselves. I speak about the same bullshit because you lack transparency. Prove me I'm wrong. How many times you share crimes or incident reports to parents, not on social media, no stats, no updates, no alerts. The media shares more information than you do. Either you give a shit or you don't. Remember, 150 calls, one alert to parents. Look at the evidence. I apologize for my language, Superintendent, since this is only my second time speaking with you, but I needed to get your attention. If the words offend you more than the facts that are below, then you're the problem. Superintendent, why hasn't anyone followed up? Why does the board keep quiet and schools keep quiet with these type of phone calls? Thank you.
Thank you. We will now recognize Mark Peters.
Good evening, Mark Peters. Good evening, board. Good evening, Dr. Mark Shanoff. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of OLL, All Access Pass. This was something that was approved by the district in relation to the school, the public library. So OLL means Osceola Library Link, and it gives access to every student within the public school who has an ID, which all public school students have an ID, that they can access anything online at any age, and they can access any material that the public library carries. And all they need is their student ID and their date, their year of birth, their 4-digit year of birth as their password. Now, my wife recently borrowed some books from the library, and we were a few days late and we had to pay 50 cents. But if a student here borrows a book and don't return it, or any material from the library physically, it could also be ebooks online, but if they physically take something and don't return it, there'll be no penalty and there will be no repercussion for not returning the material. That's what I was told. Now, when they borrow a book from the library, it sends an email to their school email address. It doesn't go to the parents. Parents are not aware that their children are even doing this, and they can rent up to 3 material, whatever it is, books, ebooks, movies, whatever it is. And now this is available to every student at every age. So this has been going on over a year. So while all the parents have been coming here and saying that they want some changes in the school library, secretly, somehow, the school district merged with the library, made an agreement. Not sure if you guys were part of this, or if it was someone else, but it has to be some part with the district, because the district is the only one can give out the student ID and their year of birth without parents even knowing that this information was being shared. I did a public request, and nothing could be found so far. This has been months, and nothing has been shared with me. That I've sent all the information, all the code words and every kind of word that they can search, still I have nothing back. This is embarrassing, because if we're trying to say age-appropriate books, we're not saying banning books. So you guys just literally laughed at us and say, okay, you guys keep fighting, coming here and saying all this, but we're going to make a way for your kids to get all the access they want at any age, 2, 3, 4, 5, going up, whatever, so long they're in the public school system, we're going to make them have all the access. Now think about it. You guys, when you grew up, you didn't have all access. You literally had to go to a library with your parents or someone to get books, but you turned out just fine. All of a sudden, all our kids need to read more because they need to be the smartest kids in the whole world so they can take your jobs. But you got your jobs, right? And you figured it out. Dr. Shanoff, he didn't have all access books. He grew up and he became just fine. All of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now recognize Ms. Jennifer Paul.
Greetings to everyone in their respective places. My name is Jennifer Paul, and as a concerned parent like others throughout Florida who have complained about the book The Hill I Climb by Amanda Gorman being restricted in public school and children being uncomfortable about being told what they can or cannot learn. Well, I'm not fond of this new watered-down Florida standard that teaches our children that slaves benefited from slavery. This is untrue, and it does not align with what I teach at home or with factual Black history that is shared in museums and literature. I don't rely on the schools to teach Black history, which is American history, especially not since it's not going to be taught with honesty. Let's be clear. Black people were highly skilled builders, farmers, miners, architects, shipbuilders before being stolen and transported to eastern shores of America. The thieves didn't steal slaves, they stole accomplished men and women. Enslaved Black people didn't benefit from slavery as the new Florida standard suggests. The oppressor benefited. What benefit do you get from being stolen and taken from your country? What benefit do you get stripping a child from his or her mom? What benefit do you get blocking access to education to learn? The audacity of these alleged scholars to propose in this new standard as if it's true is a complete slap in the face to those who painfully suffered during slavery and to their descendants. I encourage all officials who support this hate-inspired policy take a field trip to the Legacy Enslavement Museum in Montgomery, Alabama, and educate themselves on the Black American history. What are the options for parents to opt out? As I stand here today, I will continue sharing rich history of Black American history. Let's work together and make a stand.
We will now recognize Dr. Amanda Wilkerson.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Wilkerson. My address is 603 Stanford Lane, Kissimmee, Florida. Education has undergone significant transformations. This is evident when we consider the revisionist account of American history regarding slavery and the adjustments to the curriculum in Florida. These changes, motivated by ideological incoherence, threaten to test educators' professional fortitude and pure student learning. I stand here tonight with a simple yet profound request. I urge you as educators and partners to the work of education to remain vigilant on conceptualizations regarding what we teach children in this district, how it is taught, and the impact of their learning long after they have left classrooms situated right here in the county. I'm an educator, and as educators, we have a professional obligation to fulfill. Our primary goal should be to influence educational practices by using innovative instruction to support learners as they think about subject area topics and more robustly about the topics as they relate to broadening their perspectives about the world around them. I, at one point, taught here in Osceola County, and Michelle Henninger was my principal. In fact, she hired me to teach U.S. history. And I was talking with a student of mine, Magdalena. She's now living in Texas. She works at Baylor University. But I remember when she came into my classroom and could barely speak any English. In fact, her first year in school was as an 8th grader. And she was really very active in wanting to learn and consume as much information as possible. In fact, her mother called me and said, send her home with books, workbooks, CDs, and all of this information. And so I did. And she was in my 7th period U.S. history class, and she would say to me all the time, Miss, I know all of the colonies. And she would go through the colonies with me. And I would say, that's not as important, Magdalena. She'd say, Miss, I remember when you told us what the slaves did and how they overcame. I said, that's not as important, Magdalena. So one day in class, her and the students asked me, well, why is this important? and I steadfastly believe that aligning history with truth does more to powerfully help students understand the power of democracy, the impact of change, and the complexities of the enormous costs that some people experience to gain that change, whether it be those who came over on their first voyage as pilgrims, or the Trail of Tears through Native Americans or African Americans. We can't sit at understanding what slavery was. We have to be inspired and aspire to understand what it does for our community. And so I wanted to make this very clear tonight, and Dr. Shanoff, as an educator and someone who I hope that I can continue to support you. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the comments that I have. I will confirm, is there anybody else who would like to speak before we close public comments? Thank you. Do we have attorney's comments? No. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Oh, wait. You're right. It's not in the agenda, so it's not like I missed it, but yes. What, do we want to just say who? Because I think who wants to serve as advocacy is really the question.
Advocacy member and
Or FSBN. Advocacy, alternate.
I don't remember.
Do you want to be the advocacy? Okay. Ms. Payton is our advocacy rep. She's filling in an alternate though.
Alternate?
No? Okay, I'll do it. Okay, now really meeting adjourned. Even though we're here.